What is going on, everyone? Xavier here, and today I am back with another Make Academy lesson for you guys. If you're just joining us, I'm documenting my journey from complete beginner to running my own AI automation agency. I'm following a 3-phase plan to get me there, but it all starts with mastering workflow automation. That is why we're speeding through these lessons. We're almost done with the basic section. We just finished learning about transforming data with functions, and we got a brief introduction to aggregators. Today I'm covering unit 2 of the aggregations course. We're getting into numeric aggregators. If you want the full breakdown of my business plan, I'll put that video up there as well as in the description below. But without further ado, let's get into today's lessons. All right, so here we are back in the academy in the introduction to aggregators course. I'll make sure to put this website in the description as well, but we're on unit 2, numeric aggregators in action. So I'm gonna read this introduction. You are now at the second unit of an introduction to aggregators course within Make Basics. In the previous unit, you learned about the aggregators in Make. In this course, you will continue your aggregator journey and you will learn about how to use aggregators in practice. More specifically, you will build a scenario using the numeric aggregator. So let's start, shall we? Click next. Numeric aggregator. The numeric aggregator is a powerful tool that allows you to perform various operations on numerical data from multiple sources. Here are some real-life use cases where you can use the numeric aggregator in Make. So we have time tracking. It might be useful to use numeric aggregator to aggregate time tracking entries to do a performance report or generate an invoice. This could help you get a better idea of how much time you are spending on various projects and tasks. Also, it could save you time when generating invoices for your services. Then we have social media monitoring. If you are monitoring social media mentions of your brand, you can use the numeric aggregator to calculate the number of mentions, likes, shares, and comments across different platforms. This can help you to understand the level of engagement your brand is receiving on social media and help you make decisions to improve your social media strategy. All right, so you can track social medias. E-commerce. If you are selling goods or services online, you can use the numerical aggregator to aggregate information about your sales across countries, products, etc. This could help you decide which products or services to focus on. Okay, so for sales as well. And then we got inventory management. If you are a retailer, you can use the numerical aggregator to track inventory levels across multiple locations and warehouses. This can help you to identify which products are selling well and which ones are not, and make decisions about when to restock or discount certain items. So we're pretty much just tracking things, right? Tracking information accurately so we can infer or understand that information, or use that information to draw conclusions about your business and where it can be improved. So I'm gonna click next. Aggregate functions. Within the tools numeric aggregator module in Make, there are a couple of aggregate functions that you can use. So we have average. The average aggregate function calculates the average value of all input values. For instance, by using this aggregate function, you can calculate the average salary for the employees who have less than 5 years of experience. Note that you would need a filter before you aggregate for this type of use case. All right, yeah, so we've done the average with numerical data in the last course, but this seems like a different type of function, one that we would need to have additional information for. At least, at minimum, we would need a filter, but I'm assuming that this is a little bit more in-depth than the math average function, since this one can take a little bit more specific information, right? In this example being the average salary for persons with less than 5 years of experience. So let's see what other aggregate functions we got here. We have sum. The sum aggregate function calculates the sum of all values per group. For example, you can calculate the sum of your expenses or the sum of the salaries you pay to your employees. So this is a different setup. We're not like typing or mapping these functions. It looks like it's just a drop-down menu. Then we have count. The count aggregate function returns the total number of items that match the specified criteria. For instance, you can find the total number of employees who have less than 5 years of experience. Note that you would need a filter before the aggregator for this type of use case. Okay, yeah, so the aggregator in this case is a module. So I think that was where my confusion was a little bit. So it's like a way we can transform information. Then we have max. The max aggregate function calculates the maximum value of all input values. For example, you can find the biggest amount paid to your company. Okay, pretty straightforward. Then we have minimum. The minimum aggregate function calculates the minimum value of all input values. For instance, you can find the smallest value of the amount paid to your company. Right, okay, cool. Click next. Setting up. In this unit, you're going to create a scenario that gets the daily weather for 7 days, calculates the average maximum temperature for the week, and then sends this information to a spreadsheet. To get started, let's prepare the spreadsheet that you will use for this exercise. All right, so we're gonna create a new Google Sheet and name it Numeric Aggregator. Alternatively, if you have completed the exercise on the previous course, you could use the basic functions Google Sheet. Add a new sheet and name this Numeric Aggregator. Okay, next slide. In your Numeric Aggregator sheet, add the following headers: date measured and average temperature for the week. That's everything for now. You are all set and you can move on to the next part of the exercise. You can start building a scenario again. Let's get to it. All right, so I'm just gonna add the Numeric Aggregator sheet to my spreadsheet that we had made previously. So we have these 4 sheets at the bottom. I'm just going to add another one. And in this one, we're just going to name Numeric Aggregators. And then we need to add these 2 headers in the top columns: date measured and average temperature for the week. Date measured and average temp for the week. Just like that, and then we can click next. Use case with Numeric Aggregator. You are going to create a scenario that gets the daily weather for 7 days and then calculates the average maximum temperature for the week and sends this information to a Google Sheet. Let's get to it. Start by logging into your Make account, then click Create New Scenario. Start your scenario by adding the Weather Get Daily Weather Forecast module. The purpose of this module is to get the forecast for the next 7 days for your location. Okay, so we're creating a new scenario and adding the Get Daily Weather Forecast module. Under days, tick the following: today, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, 3 days from today, 4 days from today, 5 days from today, and 6 days from today. Enter your location. We have Madrid ES, but feel free to enter the location you want. Click OK to save your changes. Check the image to see the module configuration. Your source module, Weather Get Daily Weather Forecast, will function differently from what you might be used to. Rather than just generating one bundle with the current weather, it will collect the weather data for 7 days. This means that it will output 7 separate bundles. Cool. Yeah, so let's just add what we have so far. So we're going to create a new scenario, add the weather module, Get Daily Weather Forecast. We have to select today, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, 3, 4, 5, and 6 days from today. Enter your city and click Save. Now, what are we doing next? Next slide. You want to get the maximum average temperature for the week. The next step is to add the aggregator that will sum up all those 7 bundles from the weather module in one bundle. Add tools, Numeric Aggregator. For the source module, select Weather Get Daily Weather Forecast. There's a little plus sign here. Note, in this activity, there is only one source module being used, the weather. When using an aggregator, it is really important that if you have multiple modules before the aggregator, that you select the correct source module. This will ensure that you are using the correct data. Okay. Then we have in the aggregate function, select average from the drop-down menu. In the value field, choose temperature maximum. Save your changes by clicking OK. Your module configuration should look like the image. Okay, so we're adding this new tool, which is Numeric Aggregator, making sure the source is the weather module, and we're selecting average in the aggregate function field, and in the value we're mapping temperature maximum. Okay, so let's go into our scenario, add our tool Numeric Aggregator. See, our source module is already the only module we have. Then we're putting average we're mapping temperature maximum. Boom, just like that, easy. Click save, and that's it for now. I'm gonna click next slide. The final step is to send this information to a Google Sheet. Add Google Sheet, add a row module to your scenario. Connect your Google account. Under choose a drive, select my drive. Under spreadsheet ID, select use cases. Under sheet name, select numeric aggregators. Right, so we set up our Google Sheets already. So now we just need to add our Google Sheets add a row module and make sure it's configured to our newly added sheet. So my drive spreadsheet ID is going to be our basic functions, and then sheet name will be numeric aggregators. And you see our values populate right there. Next slide. Now it's time to put what you already know into good use. You will use the functions that you have learned in the previous course, transforming data using functions, to change the date format and also the number format. Under values, map the following. In date measured, A column, you want to get the date in your preferred format. For this, you can use the format date function. Our date formatting looks like the image, but you can choose whatever you prefer. Okay, so in date measured, we're just using our new format date function that we just learned. I'm gonna put that in there real quick. So date measured, we have in our date and time functions, format date at the bottom there. In front of the semicolon, we put now. After the semicolon, our preferred method of format, right? So I'm gonna put month, day, year, just like that, and save the scenario, and then click next slide. In the average temperature for the week field, you want to map the result from the aggregator. This will be a number, and you might want to format that number so that it has only 2 decimal points. You probably remember doing this in the previous course. Your mapping should look like the image. Okay, yeah, so since the result of the numeric aggregator that we just created right here is a number, they want us to format it so that it shows up with only 2 decimal points. So in order to do that, we have to use this format number function and put the result with the layout of format number following, right? And in this case, for the 2 decimal points, we just have to put a 2 and then a period, which if you remember, the 2 in this case is the number of decimal points, and the period in this case would be the decimal point separator. If we had a semicolon and another period, if the number was higher than 1,000, the thousands separator would be a period. Same thing as if we put another semicolon and then instead of a period we put a comma, the thousands separator would be a comma. So I know I didn't really put this function in our scenario last video, so I'll make sure to actually put it in and show you guys the results in this one. So average temperature of the week, we're putting our format number, results, 2, and period. So open up our Google Sheet, average temperature, we're gonna go into our math functions. Down here you can see format number. It already gives us a couple of semicolons. So in front of the first semicolon, we're going to put the results of our numeric aggregator. So we have to go into our little star or favorites tab, and you can see the results for the numeric aggregator right here. I'm gonna just click results, and then after the first semicolon is the number of decimal points, right? So we're gonna put 2 for the number of decimal points, and then after the next semicolon is the decimal point separator. So in this case, we're just going to put a period, and since they don't have us putting any thousands separator in this function, we're just going to close off the function with our close parentheses. Just like this, we can save that and save the scenario. And then I'm gonna click next slide. Now it's time to test your scenario and check if it's working properly. Click run once. Navigate to your Google spreadsheet and check the changes that happened there. Your sheet should be populated with data, similar to what we got here on the image. Note that your data might differ depending on your location and date. The numeric aggregator has taken 7 values of the maximum temperature and aggregated them using a function that calculates the average. Great job. Now you know how to use the numeric aggregator. You got one step further on your make journey. Right, so let's see if our scenario that we created is working properly. So we'll go into our scenario. I forgot to name this, so I'm gonna just name it numeric aggregator, and then we can run this scenario. So click run once, and we didn't get any errors, which is great. Go into our spreadsheet and you see that we have our date measured with the format date that we specified, as well as the average temperature of the week formatted and the format number that we specified. 2 decimal points and a period separating those decimal points. And that's exactly what we wanted. So looks great. Didn't get any errors. Seems like we followed all of the steps completely, and it did what it said it was gonna do. So that's fantastic. So yeah, you can see how this scenario could be helpful. If you needed the average temperature for the week, for some reason, you could do it with just a click of a button at this point. So if you have the scenario set up, just click run once, and for the next 7 days, it would give you the average temperature. And you wouldn't have to go through all the process of getting the temperatures, finding the average, putting them on a Google Sheet. Like, it just does everything for you. Amazing, right? I'm gonna click next. That's the end of the unit. So by now, you should know what is a numerical aggregator and some common use cases, types of numeric aggregator functions, and how to use the average aggregate function. So yeah, great stuff. Similar to changing data with functions. Here with the aggregate function, we can do some of the same things as the math functions that we learned in the previous video, but in this case we're taking that information and we can just use a module, a aggregate function module, and get the information from the source module without having to put extra functions in our mappings or go out of our way to find the data that we're looking for, right? But yeah, that's probably gonna be it for today's video. I know text aggregators is just a little bit longer than this unit. So in the next video, I'll most likely just be covering unit 3, and then we can probably end the video with the end of course assessment. And then that way, the next video after that, we're just gonna be going straight into a new course. So yeah, that's gonna be it for me for today. If you found any of this stuff interesting or you'd like to see more, please feel free to drop a like, comment your thoughts, or hit that subscribe button. But with that being said, I hope you guys are all doing well, and I'll see you in the next one.